And I was like, you're going to be mad at me. There's going to be a moment where you're going to want to hit me across the face. You're not going to because you love me. But you're going to want to kill me for a second. But I need you to get past that really fast and just be here with me because I need my mom. God can work miracles. Yes. I was like, he's done it before. He can do it again. Yeah. And I prayed every day. All of my friends, we prayed every single day. My parents, everybody, we prayed for a miracle. I was so ready to keep my baby and have my baby and go through the hard teenage pregnancy thing. Be a single mom if I had to. Be like in the trenches, whatever it took. But people choose every single day to just get rid of a baby that was going to be perfectly fine. How is that fair?
Beautiful humans, welcome back to the I Like Birds podcast, where we give God glory through the power of story, joy, honesty, and vulnerability. We were given the gift of real, which is why we have such a big heart for reaching the new believer, the confused believer, and the true believer. Because I, at one time or another, was all three. So now I'm here on a mission to do it for the one and help you grow in your faith while I grow in mine. So thank you for being here. If this is your first time here, smash that like button, that subscribe button. And if this sounds like a mission that you can stand behind, you can definitely subscribe on YouTube or whatever platform that you're listening on. And we're just super thankful for everybody that's doing that. And we're also thankful for everybody on our Patreon. All right, so before we get into this beautiful episode with a guest I'm so excited to introduce to y'all in a few minutes, I wanted to go ahead and give honor and show a special shout out to our sponsor, Express Employment Professionals. They are our go-to sponsor. They're so faithful. We are able to connect them with people who are looking for jobs all over the Johnson County and DFW area, find great jobs. And if you're in need of help finding talent for your job, you can go ahead and reach out to them, finding the number on the screen, or you can look in the description of our video. We have their website so you can connect with them personally. You can reach out to Sonia, and Sonia, we do appreciate your faithful partnership in helping us reach more souls for Christ. And in the words of Pastor Troy, boom. I want to let everyone watching know that this is an episode that will reach people all over the world. It's what the Lord has been whispering to me. So after this convo, share it with young people, moms, dads, and anyone you think that it'll impact. It will be a conversation that highlights the heart of God, champions the sanctity of life, and the courage required to choose life when the world is screaming to do the opposite. The loudest cheers at the DNC last night while Kamala Harris was babbling was for aborting babies and pro-Gaza chants. Literally the opposite of Christian viewpoints. So please vote accordingly if you consider yourself a follower of Christ. Be a kingdom independent and line up with the candidate whose policy lines up with God as much as possible. That's all we ask. We're not telling you to vote for, but we're telling you who not to vote for. Just kidding. But seriously, we are living in a world where Planned Parenthood is showing up in a bus to give out abortions and vasectomies at the Democratic National Convention. I saw a report on Fox that said over 10 babies were aborted on the first day, which is just so heartbreaking. And another report that said over 25 babies lost their chance of living over the 3-day event. They weirdly had blow-ups and food trucks outside because, remember, in their eyes, it's a party and a celebration for women being able to take away a life inside of a precious womb. So it's wild. Look, they had street tacos. They had this inflatable that looks like a IUD. I said IED in the pre-show, which was hilarious. But let's listen to what the word of God says, all right? In Proverbs 6, verses 16 through 19, it says, there are 6 things that the Lord hates. No, 7 things in which he detests, which means stronger than hate. He despises these 7 things: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that kill the innocent, a heart that plots evil, feet that race to do wrong, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who sows discord in a family. Sounds like a lot of those things line up with this conversation. We're living in a time where people are calling good evil and evil good. As it says in the book of Isaiah 5:20, it says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness before the light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Now, I don't know which direction this episode and this conversation is going to go, but what I do know is that we will unapologetically champion life while also understanding when you're a teenager or you're someone living in a difficult situation, how hard it is to choose life when you have been brainwashed to believe that abortion is always an option for you. And it's always accepted in the wicked culture that we're living in. So we understand that that's hard. And that's why we want to be real. We want to be honest. And I'll be real with you. I remember the year after high school, my on and off girlfriend got pregnant. And I thought and suggested abortion as an option. I was 19 years old. It was my mind's way of finding an escape out of the mistake that her and I made to get pregnant out of wedlock. It was a temporary thought and an assumed solution that would fix my problem, fix my sin that I committed. And there's only one name that can fix your sins, and his name is Jesus. Amen. I will forever wish that I never thought that way in that gut-wrenching moment of finding out that I created a life before marriage because of my sin. I didn't grow up in a Christian home, and I had no idea what the heart of God was toward the issue because I didn't know God or his word. Fast forward today, Noah's mom and I chose life. And though we've had many struggles and hardships, we have found a way to make it work. And now Noah is here, alive, 11 years old, crushing it in baseball, doing awesome at school, loves the Lord, and is truly the best thing that's ever happened to me. He's one of the main reasons I met my now wife. And if his mom and I hadn't chosen life, I would be forever heartbroken and carry that weight with me. And shoot, I carry enough weight on me now. Lord, send me a treadmill. And this episode is significant and the timing is divine in more ways than one. Because this is actually the first episode that I'm recording since I became a girl dad. I had my daughter a couple weeks ago. Her name is Selah Louise, and she entered our world the same day I recorded our last episode in this studio. And it was a beautiful home birth filled with peace of God, and we absolutely adore her. She's been a blessing to our family. I can't thank you all enough for your prayers, your love, and encouragement. People donated on the meal train over $500 to us, brought us a Chick-fil-A meal, a Chipotle meal, and even made us a home-cooked meal. Shout out my friend Nina Willis for that spaghetti. It was fire. And Pastor Troy and Pastor Leanne even sent us these beautiful flowers from our friends over at Blossom on the Square, which caught us by total surprise. It was so cool. Somebody just rolled up in the back of in their van on our driveway. We're like, what is this? And it was flowers. It was super special. So with all that said, I'm so thankful to be a girl dad. I'm so thankful for you guys. And I wanted to you to know that this is an episode that I felt like I wanted my heart to know what it was like to have a daughter before this guest came on our show. I wanted to feel every emotion of her story and understand her heart for choosing life, keeping Sophie's name alive, and giving God glory through a tragedy. My wife, Catherine, and I both admire her strength, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome a true light in this dark world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ava Trammell.
Hi, thank you for having me on. That was a really big lead up. I don't know if I can follow that. Oh my goodness. I feel pretty cool after that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to come on and talk on the pod. That's what I've been saying. It's like, I'm going on a pod. No worries. Going on a pod. It's not even that big deal.
Yeah. Well, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed you're here and you're joining us. You were our youngest guest that we've ever had on our show outside of a family member. So thank you for being here. This is so cool.
I'm excited.
And man, I heard your story. You shared, like, you know, we were at the host stand and you shared your story with me. And man, it got me. It got me for like days. You know, it was one of those things where I just kept thinking about it of like, man, I just haven't met somebody that had such a story of choosing life and just going through what you went through. So tell me, this is actually, I talk about the divine timing. This is actually the 1-year anniversary of when you found out that your daughter was going to be born with a diagnosis that was just tragic. So talk to me about it. Share it with me. If you're cool with it, just getting into it and cutting the small talk and just getting straight into the story of you choosing life and high school pregnancy and what that was like. So what you got?
It might be, I don't know how detailed it's going to get, because sometimes like when I tell the story, I like get super, super detailed, and then it's like hours later and we have to like pick up the next day, but probably not today. So I'll just start out from the beginning, I guess. It was kind of like, okay, so before prom, I don't even know, like, when I found out, I think March of 2023, I, like, obviously wasn't making great decisions. We all go through a rebel era in our lives, definitely was in mine. I had a boyfriend that I had been with probably not even that long, like November of the year before. And so it wasn't even a year of us being together. And it was one like random Monday. I had stayed home sick. I wasn't feeling good. Surprise. I had like peed myself at school the week before, and I was like, well, that hasn't happened since I was in elementary school, so something's up. And so I took a test. It came up, I was using the restroom. I was like, it's not even going to be positive. Like, I'm crazy. Set it down, was using the restroom. I was like, oh, turn it back over. 2 lines. No. Call my sister-in-law.
You said no. I like how you said no. Like, it was just like, just no.
No.
Just like it's your choice.
So for serious, I called my sister-in-law. She's very close to me. She had previously had my nephew, Lennox, who's 2 now. He's my best friend. And so I was like, she's the one closest to me who's gone through this. I have to call her. And so I'm still on the toilet. And I call her and I'm like, girl. And she was like, do you have another test? I was like, I think. So I run out to my car. I drink a bunch of lemonade. I come back inside, take the test. It shows up positive again. I'm like, no. And so I go to the doctor without my mom knowing. They told me it was negative, that I wasn't pregnant. And I was like, bro, I literally have 4 tests right here that say positive. And they were like, no, ours isn't testing positive. You're not pregnant. And it was because I was so early. I found out at 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
That I was pregnant.
Yeah,
literally
really
4 weeks. And so that night, I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'll pick up Wingstop for us, because I knew it would take long, because Wingstop takes forever. And so I would have time.
I respect the Wingstop hustle. Yeah, that's my spot.
Yeah. So she places the order. I go to Burleson because we live. Oh wait, I don't know if we're saying location. Okay, I live in Joshua. So I go to pick it up really early. Like, I leave early because she had placed it at work. I left. It would be ready in the next 45 minutes because Wingstop takes forever. I go to the Burleson Pregnancy Center because I was like, where else do I go?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I have to go somewhere where they know what they're talking about, because my doctor, my pediatrician, or not my pediatrician, that's for children, my regular doctor didn't know what was going on. And so I went to them. They sit me down. They're so calm and peaceful. This is I shout out anybody, Burleson Pregnancy Center, because they are they are so welcoming and they make you feel at peace. I never felt judged, not one moment while I was in there. And they got me, they did their own test. They were like, this is why the doctor said it was negative, because it's so light. You must be so early on.
Oh.
And so they were like, congratulations. They are from the jump very positive about it. They ask you questions. They make you, they don't make you. If you want to answer questions about where you live, demographics for studies and things. And so am I a part of a study? Maybe not. Anywho, but I my heart's dropped at this point. Oh, backtrack. The moment I found out, called my boyfriend, told him. He was in class at our high school. He walks out of class. I tell him, and immediately he was like, it's going to be okay. We're going to do this. It's going to be okay. We'll figure out a way. And so I hang up with him, call my best friend Jillian. She's like, what are we going to do? I was like, who's we?
You speak French now?
I was like, what are we gonna do? I'm pregnant, Jillian, not you. And she was so ready. If anything else, I in the first hour of me knowing, already had a community around me and people around me that were like, it's okay, we got this.
Wow.
Terrified to tell my parents. Now, love my parents. They're very Baptist. I come from a very Baptist family.
So this is the cardinal sin that you could have committed.
I was terrified.
What was that conversation like?
Well, we're getting there.
Okay.
So I go to pick up the Wingstop. I cried the whole way home.
Were you eating fries on the way? No.
Well, I did. I reached over and ate a few. You have to.
Yeah.
So then I get into the house. We all eat our food. I take my food to my room, which is weird because normally I eat out in the living room. We don't eat at the dinner table like a regular family. We go sit in our assigned spots in the house, eat our food, look at our iPads, look at our phones. I go to my room because normally I stay in the living room and bother my parents while they try to watch a show. I talk through the whole thing. So I go to my room. I'm sitting in my bed. I don't eat. I don't touch the food that's sitting there. I'm so sick to my stomach and nervous. I couldn't eat. I text my mom because I knew if I went out there and asked her to come into my room in front of my dad, he'd be like, what's going on? And no, thank you. If you met Tim, my stepdad, but he's really more of a father to me. He is my father. Avery has met Tim. He's scary. He's scary at first, but then you hear him crack some jokes and he's the coolest guy alive. So I text my mom because I'm smart about this. I'm like, hey, when you're done eating, can you come in here real quick? And I think she didn't know what was going on, but she knew something was up. She comes in and she goes, what? And I was like, can you sit down? And my voice starts cracking. And she was like, oh my gosh. And so she sits down and she goes, what's going on? And I was like, you're going to be mad at me. There's going to be a moment where you're going to want to hit me across the face. You're not going to because you love me. But you're going to want to kill me for a second. But I need you to get past that really fast and just be here with me because I need my mom. That's what I prefaced this whole part with. Because I needed her to still see me as a human for a little bit so she didn't kill me. I told her, I was like, I need my mom. And I'm going to tell you you're going to be mad. You can be mad, but I need my mom. And so I told her, I was like, I found out today that I'm pregnant. And my mom goes, what? she goes, what? I was like, oh, okay. I'm pregnant. And she was like, and so I told her, I gave her the rundown of the day. And then she was like, you need to go out there and tell your father. I was like, no, please. Because I'm pretty sure I was like, don't tell dad. It was the first thing I said. Before all of that sweet stuff, I said, don't tell dad. And she okay, so I'm jumping. I started bawling during that. And she held me in her lap. My head was in her lap. She was holding me. I think she wanted to kill me, but she was doing the be the mom thing. And then she said she still loved me. Obviously, she was upset, but we were going to get through this. My parents are very pro-life. They've always painted the picture for me that if I was in trouble or if I was pregnant, that we were going to keep the kid and they were going to teach me what keeping up with my responsibilities was. Because if I was going to make that decision, I was going to deal with the consequences of raising a child.
Right.
They have always been that way. So I knew, obviously they weren't going to murder me. They weren't going to kick me out. I was just terrified to break the news. And so then she makes me go out there and tell my dad. So she sits down. She goes, your daughter has something to tell you.
Oh, your daughter.
You were just so nice 5 seconds ago. You were just so nice 5 seconds ago. Now you're like, your daughter has something to okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And so I couldn't get the words out. I'm sobbing and shaking. There's couch, ottoman, chair. I'm at the end of the ottoman, hunched over, sobbing, terrified because he's going to fight me. And so she says that I'm pregnant. My mom breaks the news. Thank you, Kim A. Shout out Kim A. So he's like, what? And he goes, no. I'm right. And that was my reaction, guys. So same. And then I'm trying to paint them in the best light because they really handled this better than I think a lot of parents do.
For sure.
And they obviously they were like, what do you mean? I didn't even know you were sexually active. They were thrown through a loop in that sense.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got to a why? And just blatantly disappointed. And that's for a while, not even for a while. Honestly, it was the end of that conversation. They were like, you can't cry over spilled milk. We're going to handle this. Not handle them. We're going to be here for you. We're going to get through this.
I love that.
And they were like, have you told Sam's parents yet? Sam, my ex-boyfriend and the father of my child. And he was like, or I said, I think he's telling them tonight, blah, blah, blah. And then my mom was like, well, now you have to tell your brother because he lives in this house and he's going to find out at some point. I'm like, oh, so we're getting all of our bases knocked out in one night. Thank you. Okay. And so they bring my brother in. I tell him. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he was like, what? I'm like, right. Yeah. That's how they reacted as well.
Wow.
But then he was like, he hugged me, which was weird. No.
Older?
I'm the youngest out of my mom and my biological father's kids.
Okay,
and
how
then
old's your brother?
He's oh Lord.
3 years older than you?
Hate on me. No, he's 3 years older than me. Okay. We're all 3 years apart.
Gotcha.
I have an older brother above him who's married with my sister-in-law, and he's 3 years above him. So he just turned 25. Okay. And then Grant is about to turn 22. I'll be 19. I think that's the right math. Doesn't matter. So then he gave me a hug, which was weird because my brother, I try to hug him all the time. And so he went back.
That's so sweet.
He sat down to hug me and I go, don't act nice to me now that I'm pregnant. We all start laughing and then it was back to family, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
It was all very serious, heavy, and then very quickly picked up to, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be the end of the world. My dad from the jump said, pretty much everybody in high school makes this decision, makes this mistake. And there's consequences to all of it, but you're lucky enough to be blessed with a consequence that comes out with a child, with a baby that God has given you. You're lucky enough for that.
That's beautiful.
He was like, there are many consequences that could come from making bad decisions in high school, and yours is a baby, a life.
Wow.
Which, coming from my father, was wild because I didn't think he was going to react like that. Wow. So, fast forward, I didn't, like, I told a few people at school, like my bestest of best friends, but like towards the end of the school year, like I went to prom pregnant, you couldn't tell. Like I was a pretty skinny girl anyways, like I really wasn't showing. And then the one thing that I think might have given away towards the end of the year was like first period one day. I like was waiting. My math teacher was a guy, so I hadn't told him. I told most of my teachers just to give them like a, hey, if I run out of class because I have to throw up, let me go. Because morning sickness is real and it's getting me hard. Okay. It wasn't even morning sickness. It was all day sickness. I was just sick all day. I could throw up in it any time of day. It didn't have to be the morning. Didn't have to be the night. Any time of day I could throw up. And so one morning, first period, my boyfriend's waiting out for me in the hallway because he didn't have first period. And somebody was standing up there talking to the teacher, asking him a question. I didn't want to interrupt because I'm a polite little child. I walk up there and I'm just waiting and like I'm about to puke and I'm waiting. And then finally I say, I have to go. And I bolt out of class. You can see throughout the windows. I grab the trash can. My boyfriend's holding my hair and I'm puking. And then another time I like threw up in the middle of the hallway because our school locks most of the restrooms during lunch because of vaping problems. And I could not find a restroom open. And I was like, I'm going to puke. And I literally threw up in the middle of the hallway because I couldn't hold it anymore. And it was so embarrassing. And so many people were like,
that's so embarrassing.
It was rough. It was rough.
I'm so sorry you went through that. That's terrible.
A rough junior year.
I couldn't imagine that.
No, it was terrible.
Wow, that was junior year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And so then I go into the summer. I'm like, still haven't picked a name. I jumped back and forth on names. You can ask my mom. People like tried to get stuff like made for me. And my mom was like, don't put a name on it until she signed the birth certificate with permanent ink. Because she switches every day on what she wants to name that kid.
Yeah.
And I literally forever, the first ever name I picked was Sophie. But then it was like June, Lucy, Taylor, because I love Taylor Swift. Like I literally went through all of the names and I could not decide on anything. Nothing felt right. And so then in the summer, we went on vacation and most of the vacation was like in Montana, spent hiking. And I went on one hike, thought I was going to cry. No, I did cry. I cried the whole hike. I'm not even going to lie. And then like literally there's like an old lady walking faster than I am. And I'm like sitting here with my tights that are way too tight on my stomach. I'm crying. I'm sweating. I'm like, this is so hard. And then finally we get back and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. So I spend the rest of the trip in the cabin watching Netflix, mostly pregnancy themed movies, because why wouldn't you? Then I'm like trying to make a baby registry. I couldn't pick between two Burt's Bees, like little themed bath towels, and that stumped me for the rest of the week. I was like, I don't even know, man. I don't know what I want the theme to be. And I like cried over it. I told my mom, I was like, what do we do? She was like, I don't even know, bro.
You're just struggling.
And literally, I was like, I couldn't decide on anything.
Wow.
I hadn't started a nursery, and I'm like,
why do you think that is?
Towards the end of the summer, we're about to get there. I literally, okay, so the week before my 21-week appointment where you get your sonogram, the anatomy sonogram, I had just started my senior year of high school, which I like in the middle of the summer, probably towards the end, right before school started, because I was like, if I'm gonna go back to school and I look pregnant, I gotta announce that I'm pregnant. I like thus far, like everybody had like, there were a few rumors going around, and my friends like ride or die. They'd be like, if you want to know, go to Ava. Or shut your mouth. Okay, mind your business. All of them. They were like, we'll come after you. Watch your back. And so then I was like, finally, I was like, Mom, I gotta say something. And I come like from my family. We talked about it a lot of how I was gonna announce that I was pregnant, because I wanted to do a pregnancy announcement. I had like a whole like Taylor Swift themed. Her due date was December 31st, so it was gonna be like New Year's Day, and that's a Taylor Swift song. It was gonna be a whole thing, and like there's a lyric that was like, cleaning up bottles with you on New Year's Day. And I was like, it's perfect. I'll just put baby bottles. Like, it's so cute. And my family was like, you're 18 or like you're 17 and you're going to post a pregnancy. And like, no hate to people who do. Celebrate your life. Celebrate you have a child. That's just like my family, and the way we had decided it was going to be more of like, hey, and I'll like, do you mind if I read it to you?
No, go ahead.
This is what I meant by detailed. Sorry, I go into like the little details.
No, I think this is good because it really paints a picture of how people are going to connect with the story, of like just what the experience on the inside baseball aspect of high school pregnancy and what that was like for you.
Yeah. And also growing up in church
Yeah.
and being pregnant. That's another thing. And like, I will say, after I announced this, my church, so sweet, so supportive. If you're scared, like, out to the people. If you're scared about like being in church, getting pregnant, obviously like don't seek that out. But if it happens, which things happen, mistakes are made, you're a human. Don't be afraid to continue going to church, because that was a fear of mine, was showing up with a belly to church and really stepping into that, sweating like a whore in church. Kidding. Oops. They will love you if they're the right church and they're the right body of God. They will love you. They'll love on that baby bump. They'll be there for you. So do not stop going to church. Do not be afraid to continue being social. You made a mistake, but the worst thing you can do is make another mistake and either hide yourself, isolate yourself, or get an abortion, all those other things. Be you and pregnant, and be in your community, and be in your community with God.
Amen. I love that. Amen.
Thank you. So this is what I posted, and it's like, where's the camera? It's like a little black read it for post. Us. So it's not like a photo or anything, because I didn't really have like a good sonogram picture yet. This is August 10th. I said, I have debated on if or how to make this post. My parents even offered to do it for me, but I want to be the first to say that God has blessed me with a little girl coming in December. I also want to be the first to say that this was not in any way planned, but I am grateful that God can turn any situation into a gift and a blessing. I understand that this is not the biblical way that a baby should come to be, but I am just glad that from our choices, the outcome that Sam and I have been given is a child who has endless possibilities to do his work. His, capital H. God has plans for everyone's life, even if we don't know the bigger picture right away, which I think that still speaks volumes for the rest of my story, that I said that, you know, which y'all will learn later. I will love and protect this baby with everything I have. And then I put Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future, which I think, hey, and that spoke for my whole pregnancy.
Wow.
Oh, dang. Really threw that. So I posted that. Obviously, like, comments were flooded on Facebook and Instagram of, you're going to be the best mama. Y'all are going to be the best parents. Y'all are so blessed. Like, there was no hate that I received, at least initially. Yeah. And there really was no hate after that. There's just like girls at football games that would side-eye me being pregnant at the football game with my belly bump.
People
but like,
that don't know you, but people that do know you are like, you know, supportive.
Yes, very. Yeah. And even people that I wasn't very close with. Like I had one of my best childhood friends that I had like been so distanced from. He reached out and he was like, hey, like, Ava, I am so proud of you. You're going to be the best mama. Like, aww. And it was like, I ended up going to prom with him this last year. He's like one of my best friends again. But it like, he was so sweet, and I like didn't expect like that kind of like response from the community around me. Wow. Like I already had so much love and support. So then I start high school. I don't start regular school. Like we had decided that I was going to do the fast track program so I could graduate, graduate early. Mm-hmm. And then be able to stay at home or do whatever I needed to be there with Sophie. I wanted to be out before I gave birth. And so my due date was 12/31. So then late August, a year ago today, I go for my, I'll say this. The 2 weeks following, I still wasn't showing, and it was kind of like freaking me out. And I was telling everybody, I was like, I haven't felt her kick. I'm not showing. Like, I think there's something wrong.
Oh, wow.
Like I told everybody.
You had like intuition about it?
Yes. And I I had an appointment before that, and I told the doctor, I was like, I think there's something wrong. And she was like, no, like this is just like normal pregnancy jitters. She was like, you'll feel her kick soon enough. Like you'll start showing. You're a tiny girl anyways. That's why you're not showing. Blah, 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 blah. You're a tall girl. I'm sure she's just in your rib cage. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. Like I know there's something wrong. One of my mom's best friends, her daughter, got pregnant around the same time as me, but she's in her middle 20s, And it was with her boyfriend. They're married now. They have a beautiful baby named Beckham, and he's just the cutest little boy. I've gotten to babysit him once so far, and he's just a light. He is so cute. But me and her went through our whole pregnancy together, and like we shared all of. Because me and her are big overthinkers. She's a very big overthinker. She was like, "No, same. There's something wrong." And I was like,
Really?
"Lainey,
Wow.
we've got stuff going on." And then, I told her I was like, I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but I think there's something wrong. And even my mom, like we talked about it the other day, like, because we knew the anniversary of this was coming up, and she was like, I didn't want to say anything to you, and I was trying to trust the doctors, but I was so worried about you not showing. Like, I thought there was something wrong too. And which, like, me and my mom went to every single appointment together. We were very in tune. We spent all of our time together. If Sam couldn't go to an appointment, he actually hadn't seen her at this point. He hadn't been able to go to a sonogram appointment because the only other one I had was at 9 weeks when she was about the size of a gummy bear. That's what my mom called her the whole time because I could never pick a name. She called her Little Gummy Bear. My mom was so excited. Like, it was a very quick switch up from my parents being disappointed, what are we gonna do, to then my dad was like, can we name her Remy, like Remington, after the gun, because he's so yeehaw. And like he called her Remy the whole time. My mom called her Gummy Bear. My brother was like, where am I gonna live, because you're about to kick me out for this nursery. It was a whole thing. They were all so excited though, and my sister-in-law, my brother, they were so excited. And then so then we go for the 21-week appointment. My boyfriend at the time, Sam, had just started Tarleton. That was his first day of classes. So he drove down so he could go see her for the sonogram, and then he'd have to leave right after before the appointment. And it would just be me and my mom for the appointment. So we go, we get the sonogram, and as I'm laying on the table, I'm like holding my mom's hand, Sam's holding my leg, and like they're standing there with me, and they start showing her, and like everybody's crying, like it's so sweet. And the screen just looks oddly gray. Like, I literally said, I was like, I know I'm 17 years old and I don't know much about pregnancy. But this doesn't look like it does in the movies. Like, I feel like there's more black. Like, why is it so gray? Like, I feel like there's not enough black around her face like there normally is to shape the womb. And they were like, or the sonogram lady, she's not allowed to answer any questions.
Really?
You probably know that. Like, if they can't give you any medical hints, diagnosis to anything that's going on. They have to completely stay straight-faced. They can't answer anything.
It can only be the doctor, pretty much?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, because that like puts a liability on them. Like if they're wrong or they like stress the patient out, which causes like a miscarriage, like something like that, they can't say anything to stress the patient out intentionally or anything. So she said, have you felt any leaking? And I was like, leaking what? And she was like, amniotic fluid. There seems to be a lack of amniotic fluid. They can say like apparent things. And I was like, well, I mean, I was really sweaty the other day. Like, I thought that's just like me being hot and pregnant. Like, I don't know. I thought I'd pee my pants a little bit. I was like, I don't know. And then she was like, well, I'm not sure. And she was like, how far did you say you were along? And I was like, well, I'm doing like December 31st. And she was like, oh, okay. I'm like, and then like she just kept acting like she was growing really small. And like there wasn't very much amniotic fluid. She said there's almost no amniotic fluid. And I was like, girl, I don't think that's right. Not that I know much about pregnancy. And my mom, like, she was kind of concerned as well. And so the sonogram lady was like, well, I'll send these to your doctor and then they'll tell you what they think's going on. And so we walk out. My ex-boyfriend Sam kisses me goodbye. He's like, let me know what's going on. Like, if there's something wrong or if it's okay, like, just let me know. Like, I have to go to make it to class. I was like, okay. And so me and my mom, we go into the appointment and they tell me that they're going to do a cervical exam to see if my amniotic fluid, like my sac, has broken prematurely and maybe that's what happened. And if it was, they'd patch it back up because apparently that's a thing, and then fill you with they call it amnioinfusions. It's saline. They inject saline to act in the place of amniotic fluid. And so they do the cervical exam. They say everything seems to be intact. We're going to send you downstairs to a specialist and they're going to tell you what they think. They're like, there's very little amniotic fluid. This is my OBGYN. At the time, she's a high-risk doctor because I'm a teenager. You're high-risk pregnancy automatically. So we go downstairs. Me and my mom are in the waiting room. We fill out all the work. We're like so on edge. Me and her are Googling everything in the waiting room. I know. And so we Google everything. I come across what it ends up being. And that's like the last thing we looked at before we were like, we're going to put the phone down because it like started to get dark.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that and I'm like, that's crazy. That's not what it is. And then we put our phones down and we're like praying. We're sitting there praying. And I'm trying not to like freak out too much because obviously high stress on a pregnancy is rough anyways. And so then we go in, it's just the sonogram tech, a different one. And at the specialist, she's doing it. She tells us she can't answer any questions. She's just going to do this, see what they can see. And then if she has to, she'll do an internal sonogram if they can't see very well because the lack of amniotic fluid makes it hard to see. So they start to do it, and as she's doing it, she was like, did you feel that? I was like, feel what? She was like, look, she just kicked. She was like, look, she just kicked again, and I felt it.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time I ever felt her kick. And I'm like, Mom, I just felt it. Because you can first feel it from the inside before you can feel it from the outside.
Yeah, for sure.
And so my mom couldn't feel it, but I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was so hyped. I was like, what do you mean? And I was like so excited because it like helped put together. I'd been feeling it the whole time, but I didn't know that was kicking because it feels like gas bubbles that early.
It's like flutters, right?
Yeah. But then like at that point when I saw her kick and I felt it at the same time, I felt it for the rest of the time. And so I was so excited. But takes a turn of events. And I make like dark humor jokes, so I'll try to avoid that for this part because it helps me cope.
But
I
feel you. I'm a comedian, I know.
Yeah. I act like I am one. So then she starts to look and she's like, we can't really detect anything. Like I'm gonna have the doctor come in and we're gonna do an internal sonogram, see what we can see. So the doctor comes in, they both come back in. She asks the sonogram tech to leave for a second. And she's like, we can't see much. We can't really tell what's going on. We have an idea of what it might be. We're gonna look for renal arteries, and that will be, we're not finding any kidneys. We're gonna look for some renal arteries because if like maybe there's just a different problem and it's harder to see the kidneys, but if we can find the renal arteries in this internal sonogram, then that'll answer more questions for us. But if we can't, then we'll take about it a different way. She didn't really give us much like clarity on what they were looking for. None of that. So then we're laying there, but I had a horrible feeling in my stomach. I had a horrible feeling. And because you don't hear about this. Like you don't even really hear about like teenage pregnancies going wrong. Like I feel like I've never heard of like a teenager having a miscarriage or like them like having a stillbirth. Like I don't feel like I've heard about that, especially in teenage pregnancies. Like they just have to have their kid and it's sex, in the sense that like
and then they get an MTV show.
Yes, exactly. And then they like have the struggle and bad baby daddies, and I'm like, so what do you mean? And so then we sit there and they start to do it. So an internal sonogram, they have to go inside of you. Unfortunately, it's not very fun with like a little sonogram stick, but like not in your stomach. That would be rough. And I'm not going to go into details. Yeah. So then as they're doing it, I'm laying there and they're kind of talking to themselves, and me and my mom are like clutching hands, and like me and her both have rings on, so it's painful, but like I don't even really remember that part. I just remember like weird details. And then from probably that point, and I'll finish telling the situation, but from that point on, and like I tell this to everybody, I didn't feel like it was in my body. Like talk about an out of body experience. I remember it from more of like a point higher than me.
Really?
Like I don't remember it from like my point of view, which is weird.
That is interesting.
Like I don't even like remember like really what my body felt like. Like it was just a weird.
Yeah, because you're like experiencing a traumatic experience.
And like numb. And so they're talking and I can hear them say that they aren't detecting any renal arteries. And I've never heard myself make a sound like the cries that like were coming out of my body, because I kind of knew. Like I didn't know. Nobody had said anything yet. And I'm just sitting there sobbing, and my mom's sobbing, and my mom doesn't cry very much. My mom's a very strong person. She's been through a lot of horrible things in her life that have made her very strong. I wouldn't say they made her hard, because she's still my mom. She's still precious. She's a very strong woman. And she was crying her eyes out, and I was crying my eyes out. And it was horrible. And so I finally look at them. And out of like just frustration, I say, can you just tell me what's going on? And she goes on to tell me that they finish up. She's like, let us finish up and then I'll explain to you. She said, we're not finding any renal arteries. And so then she has the nurse or the sonogram tech leave the room, and she says, we believe that your baby has what's called bilateral renal agenesis, which is the absence of both kidneys, which will ultimately cause her to be incompatible for life outside of the womb. You have two options. You can either go out of state to Colorado somewhere and get an abortion. Just don't come back and tell us about it if you do decide to make that choice. You can terminate they say terminate. They don't say abortion. They say terminate the pregnancy because she does have a heartbeat. She's still kicking. She's still breathing in the womb, like breathing in the sense of like, I don't know. So it's not legal here. And my mom asks a bunch of questions like, could they induce pregnancy early? And I look at her and I'm like, girl, like
you didn't even consent with me.
I know. I was like, what are we talking about right now? And my mom's just looking out for me. My mom asked so many questions about, is this going to affect Ava's health? Will she be safe? I'm like, I don't really care. I'm keeping my kid. I hadn't said that yet. But then she says, your second option is to go full term, carry all the way till you naturally go into labor. They might have to induce you because we don't really know how that works. Apparently at some point in there, they told me that low amniotic fluid causes preterm pregnancies. Didn't remember that, didn't hear that. My next OB that I switched over to didn't say anything about that. So I wasn't really aware that that was a possibility.
Wow.
But anywho, so she tells me that, or she's like, that's even if you make it full term, because due to lack of space, because of low amniotic fluid, she could turn over, lay on her umbilical cord and suffocate in the womb. And from that point on, lived in fear for the rest of my pregnancy that I was going to wake up one morning and she'd be passed away. And then I was going to have to go deliver her stillborn. They said that, but if you do make it full term, she'll be born. And because of the process of swallowing amniotic fluid and peeing back out, which produces more amniotic fluid, that develops their lungs, that process. So without that, what it would take her out, that sounds terrible, but what would eventually cause her to pass away would be lack of lung development. It could be 3 minutes, 3 hours. We don't know how long she would live. There's no way to tell while they're in the womb. They can tell after, but then at that point, you're still just like waiting game. And so she said, if you decide to continue on with the pregnancy, you can continue coming to appointments. Just show up to your next appointment and we'll continue treating it like a normal pregnancy. And so we leave, and me and my mom were I called Sam while I was sitting in there during the whole thing to tell him what was going on, kind of the best I could, and that he needed to come back down because he was already at Tarleton. And he says, okay, like something happened with my car, but I'll be there as soon as I can. His mom calls me. She's so upset. Obviously, like they're losing their grandchild. Like it's a hard thing. And that they were going to come see me when they could come visit me at the house, because we were going to go back to my house. So me and my mom leave. She had called my dad at some point in this. And so as we're in the car driving, we're kind of just in shock. Like my mom's hugged me, I don't know how many times, told me she's so sorry, baby. And like my mom calling me baby sends me to shambles every single time. I'm sobbing. And so then we are driving. She's like, you have to eat something. Dad will come sit with us, but you have to eat something. I chose Olive Garden, surprisingly. Foreshadowing, I feel like, because now I serve at Olive Garden sometimes. But we go sit, and as we're sitting there, we tell him everything they said, and he was like, so what have you decided? Because I haven't told anybody at this point. I really hadn't voiced it. I made my decision the moment she said the first few words, but I hadn't said anything yet to anybody because I was trying to gauge how everybody else felt about the situation. Yeah, for sure. Not that that would change my mind, but we're sitting there. I explain the whole thing, and I say, this might be crazy because I know she's not going to survive anyways, but I only have so much time left with her. Why should I cut it any shorter? She's safe in my womb. And at this point, I had been following a million pro-life organizations on Instagram. I've seen what an abortion looks like. And I said, I don't think I could bear to have her ripped piece by piece out of my womb and shorten the life that's already so short. Take her away from a spot where God has placed her in my hands, in my womb, where she's safe and she's warm and she only knows love and doesn't know pain. Why would I give her such a painful death when she's perfectly fine with me? I said, today is the first day that I felt her kick. I already love her more than more than I can even express. Not that I didn't love her before. I loved her so much before, but feeling her kick, it's just, my baby was in there and I couldn't bear the thought of having her removed. And my dad, I think he heard me wrong and he was like, Ava, I disagree with you. And I said, what? And he was like, you're not terminating your pregnancy. I was like, where did you pick that up in that whole speech? I was like, where did you gather that? And my mom was like, honey, she's agreeing with us. And he was like, oh, okay, good. No, I'm behind you on that one. Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh,
so if anybody questioned if my parents were going to back me on getting an abortion, they weren't. And they were going to make me power through that. Probably, well, I say that. They would have approached it the best way they could, but they were ultimately, this is how God's laid it out for us. You're not going against that. Love you, but no.
Yeah.
And so I didn't eat not one bite of my chicken Alfredo. Not one bite. I couldn't bear it. And then as we walked out, my mom said, you know who you should call? Sam and Chrissy. That's my youth pastor and my youth pastor's wife. And I called them because in my pregnancy, before we knew the diagnosis, Olive Garden, surprisingly, me and Chrissy went out to eat, my youth pastor's wife. And she gave me, their very first pregnancy was a little girl. And they ended up having a miscarriage. And she gave me all of the sentimental things that she had been holding on for about, like, her son, her oldest son now, I think it was maybe like a few years before that. And I think he's in like 6th grade, maybe a little bit younger than that. I don't know. Sorry, Jasper, if you're listening to this. So it had been years that she had held on to all these little baby girl things. And she took me out to dinner, told me how much she was there to support me through this, how much she loved me and loved my heart. She's always been a very close person to me. And she gave me her baby things. She said, I don't know a person that I think that these girly little sassy baby things would fit more. She was like, I've known people over the years that have come through the youth group, have had kids later on. This fits you perfectly. And I would be blessed if you would take this and make little outfits with Sophie. I didn't know Sophie at the time. That wasn't the name yet, but my baby. And when I tell you that spoke volumes, that she considered a teen pregnancy worthy enough to give me those things and to let my teen pregnancy have that. It's things that had meant so much to her for years.
Yeah.
It spoke volumes. Yeah, and so the moment I get out of Olive Garden this time, just finding out the diagnosis, I call Sam and Chrissy and they tell me how sorry they are and that they'll do anything they need for me. And they give me the most uplifting words. And later on, Chrissy sent me a whole text because I was talking about like, and this is later on in my pregnancy, like how I'd felt guilty about, like, sometimes I would wake up and I'd be in a good mood and then I'd feel guilty about being in a good mood because I was going through something so terrible. I was about to lose my kid. Why am I happy? Right. And she said, you're going to live through your life and you are going to cherish Sophie, but you're also going to live your life, cherish her along with it, but that doesn't have to be the main focus for the rest of your life. You have a story and it's going to be beautiful. And Sophie is an amazing part of that story and you can carry her with you for the rest of your life, but you can't be sad over her for the rest of your life.
That's a good word.
And like, obviously, like, she also says, like, be sad however long you need to be sad. If you're sad for the rest of your life, that's okay, but you also need to be happy because Sophie wouldn't want you to sit and be depressed over this for the rest of your life. She said it in much better words than I can ever put it and much better way, but it like stuck with me and I'm pretty sure I put it in one of my posts that I had made about celebrating her life. But so I go home that night. Sam comes over, his parents come over, they sit with us for a while, we talk, and then they go home and he has to go back to college. And then my two best friends, Jillian and Haley, they knew what happened. I told pretty much all my friends that day, I think. And they're all so heartbroken for me because they're the best friends that anybody could ever have. But Jillian and Haley come over. They've been my best friends since middle school. Well, Haley actually just sophomore year, so the year before. But they come, they sit on the couch. We don't talk about what's going on. They tell me about stuff going on at school. We watch stupid movies, rom-coms. And I told my mom, I was like, I think if they had come over to sit and talk about what was going on, I would have been in a really bad spot. But the fact that they came over, acted normal, and let me just be a normal person for a second who wasn't going through the loss of her child very freshly, it meant so much to me. I don't even think they did it intentionally. That's just how they are. They're yappers. They like to talk. They just like to be girly girls. And I remember I have a photo of us. We just sat there on the couch, and one of them's right here on this side of me, and I have like both of their legs in my lap. I'm facing the TV. They're like backs up against the sides of the couch, and I have a photo of all of us sitting there, and we just sat there, and they like cried with me for a little bit. We still didn't talk about what we were crying about, but they just hugged me and we cried, and I needed that. And then I think it was the day after, Avery, Megan, and my other best friend Maddie, all three of my best friends, they were all I called them my sophomores, because they were, at the time, I guess they would have been my juniors, but they were all 3 younger than me. And I met them in a child development class where we learned all about teen pregnancy and all about pregnancy in general. So
ironic.
It's kind of full circle, yeah. I actually failed the taking home the robotic baby thing. So
wow.
Yeah, it was really awkward. And then when she asked if I was going to do it again because I failed it the first time, I was like, hey, and I'm pregnant and I'm about to deal with this for the rest of my life. Please don't make me do it again. That baby's terrible, y'all. So then Megan had been texting my mom that day, coordinating everybody to come over, bring me a gift, and then sit with me. Not knowing, I don't think they even knew that Jillian and Haley came over the night before. It was just my 2 friend groups. Knowing that they needed to come be with me.
Wow.
And they did. And they sat there, and I have a photo from it, and they sat there and prayed with me, and they just loved on me, and they talked about everything. I filled them in on everything, because really, like, my relationship and, like, my pregnancy had kind of been isolating thus forth for most of my friends, and I think it was self-isolating, and the fact that I was worried that their parents wouldn't want them to hang out with me anymore because I was pregnant. And when I tell you, Avery's parents have made me one of their own kids since. Like, we became friends when I was pregnant. Our like height of our friendship happened when I was pregnant. And her parents have been such blessings to me. They were so excited for my pregnancy. They were so sad when I found out the diagnosis. Recently, the other day, they gave me Sophie's first Bible with her name engraved on it on the bottom.
Come on.
And I sobbed that somebody thought about that little detail of her first Bible. I know I'm kind of spoiling because the podcasters the listeners don't know what's about to happen. And sorry for this jump scare, y'all. So then, I find out that day, and that's the end of the week. I go back to school on Monday. I'm right back at school. At the school I didn't want to be at. It's the alternative school. I have no friends over there. The principal goes to my church, and she lets me sit in her office. No, that's a good thing. If you've met Tanya Long, she's impacted your life in one way or another.
That's special. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. When you think of alternative school, you think of like the worst scenario.
She can put the hammer down when she has to. Yeah. Oh, and everybody also knows that.
Yeah, okay.
If she's made an impact on your life, you also know she can lay the hammer down when she has to. But going to church with her and then also being at her school, I think helped so much. And she's loved me for years now. I've always been her Ava. And she's T. Everybody calls her T at church. And her grandson, in a sense now, calls her Sweet T. It's so cute. Anyhow, she would let me come into her office and lay in her lap. She'd hold me in her lap and let me sit against her and cry.
Wow.
Even before I knew the diagnosis, because being a teen and pregnant and at school is hard. Wow. And sitting in a desk so pregnant is rough. They don't have the ones that you see in the movies with the big hole for your belly. Yeah. They don't. And Sophie hated that. She'd kick against the table all the time. She's like, hey, and you're squishing me. Yeah, okay?
For real.
And I was just like, back up. Or like when I brush my teeth, I'd be leaning against the counter. I feel a kick. She's like, bro.
Really? Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. And so then I go back to school on that Monday. I don't even want to be there. I don't talk to anybody. I cry most of the day. Everybody's like, what is wrong with her? And it was rough. But like, they all knew I was pregnant. Not that I'd told anybody, but they all knew. We live in a small town. And like, I remember people I was so like annoyed with because they were being overly nice to me. And I'm like, don't talk to me. And I'm like I feel like I'm a nice person at regular high school. I was so nice, so outgoing. Everybody knew my name because I wouldn't shut up no matter where I was. I'm a yapper day one. At that school, I was basically a mute for the whole year. Well, not the whole year. The whole time I was there, I did not talk. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I wasn't very outgoing. I got my work done and then I went and sat on the couch in like the teacher's lounge because that was the most comfortable spot for me. That's actually where I did most of the rest of my classes, was just from that couch because it's self-paced. And it was rough. And it was a really dark time in my life. I felt very alone. And like seeing all of my friends and all my senior friends do all the senior things was rough.
Yeah.
And they invited me to everything, but it's like not that I had the energy or wanted people to. I hadn't announced the Sophie's diagnosis.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
Nobody knew unless I had told them.
Right.
Or unless somebody told somebody else. And so people would text me and they'd be like, how's your baby doing? I would tell them because I wasn't hiding it, but I also wasn't going to make a big post about it.
That makes sense.
And like, it was hard at first. People would text me, and it was more hard because I felt bad for them because I knew it would be awkward for them because they're like excited, and then they like, I know that they would feel bad for asking me.
Yeah.
But as it went along, it was so healing to talk about it. Like, everybody, like, I would like be with my parents somewhere and I'd see like my parents like off to the side, somebody talking to them because they'd be like asking questions about how I am, and like, which was such a sweet thing. And like, but after every single talk, and I'm so grateful, don't get me wrong, I'm so grateful that they were worried about my well-being. But after every talk, they would I would go to my parents and I'd be like, did they ask? And they'd be like, yeah. And I was like, why didn't they come to me? I was like, you're telling them that I want to talk about it, right? Like, I told my parents, I was like, I want people to ask me. I want to be able to share what's going on. I want to be able to talk about her because that keeps her real. That keeps her alive to me. Because if we don't talk about her, then she's already gone.
Wow.
And she's not yet. Wow. She's still on this earth. She's still here. People are acting like she's already passed away. She hasn't. This is my baby. And also, I didn't say this. The moment I found out, I said, and I told my parents, this is what I told them at that Olive Garden. God can work a miracle. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't touch on that quicker.
I'm so glad you said that.
God can work miracles. Yes. I was like, he's done it before. He can do it again. Yeah. And I prayed every day. All of my friends, we prayed every single day. My parents, everybody, we prayed for a miracle. Because I said, no matter if God heals Sophie here on earth or in heaven, he is still good. He is still God. But that's not going to stop me from praying for a miracle.
My best friend was on life support for 6 days, and same thing. We prayed for a miracle every single day. Yeah. And it didn't go our way, but we still trust God through that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah. And we're I'm
sorry for your loss.
No, we're coming a little bit close on time, so I do want to get to, if you're good, as much as possible, get to like the moment you did experience life with her.
Okay. Sorry, I know I get detailed.
No, I love the detail. I just want to make sure
I can joke because there was a few months there was little idle. I graduate high school November 10th, go into preterm labor on November 17th. I'm in labor the whole weekend.
So 6 weeks early. Okay.
Yes, I'm in labor the whole weekend.
The whole weekend?
Yeah, because you go into early labor.
Okay, so like contraction.
Yes, but for normal pregnancies, you have that amniotic fluid because your sac hasn't broken yet, and it cushions it. So it's uncomfortable. It feels like a Braxton Hick. Like, it's still pretty bad, but it's bearable, and you're in early labor. I go into early labor. I don't have any amniotic fluid cushioning anything. It feels like game day contractions, like full-blown birthing contractions the whole time. So I go into the emergency room. They give me a medicine that's supposed to hold it off for a few days, or maybe even weeks. They send me back home. Not even 24 hours later, it's worn off. I'm having contractions again. It's terrible. We have to go back in. They try the same type of medicine, but in a different, like it's the same purpose, but a different medicine. See if that'll work better. It's supposed to last for weeks. That next morning, I want to say at like 9 a.m., we're getting up, getting ready for church. It's a Sunday. I'm ready to go to church. And I go to the restroom. And I go to wipe. I see my mucus plug. I'm like, I think that's what a mucus plug is. I go show my mom. Or I go tell my parents. My dad's like, please don't say that in front of me. Please. I beg of you, please don't say that in front of me. And I was like, bro, I don't care. I think I just backed my mucus plug. My mom's like, no, you didn't. I'm about to go throw it away. Because I'm like, okay, whatever. She's like, you'll be contracting. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't even have any water to break. Like, what am I going to do? Like, there's nothing on the floor. And she was like, whatever. And so she comes in the kitchen. She's like, well, let me see it. And she goes, oh, that's your mucus plug. By the time she says that, I walk over to the couch. I am having a full-blown contraction where I'm like, like the scene in Twilight. I don't know if you've seen it, but like her back breaks. And she's in labor in that too. Wow. So that's a good representation. And like she's literally dying. That's what it feels like. I was like, ah! And I'm like timing it on like the little app that's like, if you have so much time in between contractions, you go to the hospital. Mine's like, by the time I'm finished packing, it's like, and you're about to go into labor.
Wow.
Like, you're about to deliver this kid. But that's what the app says. It's like, bro, if you're not headed to the hospital, it's nicer than that. It's like, please go. But mine was like, dude, you need to be there already.
Wow.
And so we're driving. Mind you, the day before, I like told my mom, I was like, can we stop for Chick-fil-A? And she was like, the moment that contraction hits, you're going to scream at me again to keep driving. And I was like, you're right. But I want food. And then like the contraction would hit. I'd be like, drive. And then, so then that day, I was like, can we get food? And then the contraction hit. I was like, I swear if you don't keep driving, I'm going to fight you. And then we get to the hospital. They check me. They're like, you're at a 6. They tell me she's in the wrong position. So birthing could go very bad to where I could contract. If I do it like the regular labor way, she come like natural.
Vaginal birth. Yeah.
Yes. I could contract on her head in the middle of contraction, kill her, on her neck, something, I could kill her. And then, or something could go wrong and it kill me, or it go perfectly fine because she's so tiny, growing behind. They, like, with bilateral renal agenesis, they're supposed to be, like, deformed because of the constraints of growing room, and then they're, like, super small, all this stuff. So she could slip right out and be fine. And at this point, they're still finding a heartbeat. She's still alive. She's still doing okay. Or I could have an emergency C-section. But in this time, they're supposed to be testing for my blood so I could get an epidural. They wait too long to send in the blood. I don't get an epidural. They tell me, they're like, it's too late. You're already at a 9. We can't give you an epidural. Like, within 30 minutes of me being at the hospital, I went from a 6 to a 9. Wow. It's like emergency. And so I'm like, I don't care what we do. Give me the C-section. I just want to have this kid, because I start butterflying my legs and I'm like, she's coming. And then the charge nurse is like, girl, listen to me. She yells in my face. She's like, you're not pushing, close your legs. And she looks at my mom. She goes, I'm sorry, we have to talk to her this way. Just to get the point across, I promise I'm not just screaming at your child. And then my mom's like, no, go ahead, queen. And then she turns back at me. She's like, do not push. And so then it was like rough. Looking back, it was really funny. So they rushed me. And my mom's like, are you sure? Like, this is what you want. You might not be able to get to see her. And the anesthesia guy is like, we'll keep her awake as long as we can so she can meet Sophie. We all know what this situation is, which I said a prayer. Okay, I'll fast track this because I know we're short on time. But they take me into the room. I get what's called a spinal, thank the Lord. And it's like an epidural, but it's a smaller needle and it's a one-time dose. You don't get to up the anesthesia. It's a one-time dose to cover the whole thing. And like, I guess they could do that. And so that's what they did. After I got it, I was in such a good mood. I was like, wherever that anesthesia guy is, tell him I love him. All the nurses laughed and they thought that was so funny. I had in the room with me, my mom, like this is where the people that are going to be in the room with me. My mom and her assistant of years now, Jenna, who has become like an aunt to me. Like she literally has been at every life event now. Like she's like family. Jenna is literally like family.
Shout out Jenna.
Literally, shout out Jenna Miller. You my girl. You and my mom. Sorry. Shout out Kemme earlier, but that was a negative shout out. Love you, mom. So her and my mom are going to be in the room with me because when I had talked to, I was going to therapy, mind you, this whole time. I was going to counseling, actually. Okay. Christian counseling through Impact Counseling. Shout out my homegirl there, Linda. She's literally, I talked about her the whole time, how much I loved her so much.
You have so many people in your corner.
No, literally, everybody was rooting for me. And she said some things sometimes, being a Christian counselor, she was like, and I'll fight them. And I was like, you can't say that. It's like, you're supposed to be a Christian counselor and you're about to go fight this person that's hurting my feelings. And then I also had Raven. Shout out Raven. She was my counselor through the OBGYN. And so I was seeing 2 counselors, but hers was like phone calls. And then I drove to see the counselor in Impact. Loved her. Anywho, she told me that I needed to have somebody in the room with me that could also be there for me, but also my mom. And to be very careful about who I chose. Because I was going to have one of my friends. But I thought about it and I was like, my mom's not close with that friend. That friend's not going to know how to support me really or my mom.
Yeah.
like, no hate to them, loved them the pieces. It's just like, it was this is once in a lifetime thing. I need to know how to pick right and pick maturely. So I picked Jenna because she makes me laugh on my darkest days. She's my mom's other half. They call them the Twin Towers. I have a very tall mom and very tall Jenna. And so they have to get scrubbed in, and they take me to the room by myself first, to the operation room. They're getting scrubbed in, but they would rejoin me. I bring my speaker, ask if I could play music, because that's all I wanted, was to be able to play my worship music. Because in a moment of chaos and very sad, horrible things going on, yes, the whole situation was very blessed, but it's still a horrible situation.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to have my worship music playing. And so I turn it on, and everybody in the room thought it was so cool that I had worship music playing. And like, I said a prayer over Sophie, I said a prayer over myself, my mom, my Jenna, and also the nurses and the doctors, because I think, and I remember—
That's powerful. You did that.
Thank you. I remember apologizing to the specialist that had to tell me the diagnosis, because I felt so bad that she has to go through this all the time, that she gives bad news to people. And she stopped us on the way out, and she was like, no one's ever said that before. And like, because I remember I like got a little snippy with them, and I apologized, and they were like, girl, like, we understand, you don't have to apologize. And then, so as I'm laying on the operation table, I say pray for them, because that's a hard thing for them to go through. Like, I understand that like people in the healthcare system go through deaths every single day, but it is so hard. And I couldn't imagine like them. They haven't been a part of her life. They don't really, and I'm sure there were people in there who weren't Christians. They don't see the hope after this. Yeah. They don't see the light of what I've gone through. Through all the darkness, they don't see the light. I'm sure it was very hard on them as well. And so I said a prayer for them as well. And then they start to do the prep and everything, but they have to rush because, again, I'm dilating very quickly. And so as we're laying there, I'm laying there, my mom and Jenna come in. Mind you, I'd switched over OBGYN. So this is at a different hospital than it originally was going to be. I had a new OBGYN, shout out Chandra Shelapan, amazing woman who was very gentle and careful with me through a horrible diagnosis. Beautiful woman, has received many awards, and she is very, like, that, out of anybody I know, she is deserving of them. I'm
just going to say this. All these shout outs that you made, you better text this episode to them.
I will. Oh, and I'll be like, hey, and wait for your shout out.
Yeah, exactly. No. Our watch time hours are going to go through the roof because everybody's going to be waiting for their shout out.
I'm like, and if you just wait until I won't tell them the time I set it at, because then they'll be able to skip.
Yeah,
I'll be
exactly.
like, just wait.
Just go.
It's in there.
Yeah.
But so my mom and Jenna finally come in. My mom's holding my hand. I'll show you a photo, actually, of my mom sitting there. And it's like beautiful. It's 3 generations. Anywho, we'll get to that.
That's beautiful.
So they go to start the operation, and they tell me, like, they do their tests at first where they poke you, so to make sure you can't feel it. I felt a little sting on one side, and I kind of told them that. And so the anesthesia guy's right by my head. He's pumping different, like, into my IV, not into, like, down there, because you can really only do the one time with the spinal. So he's doing like different anesthesia, and he's trying to go as long as he can before he has to put me to sleep, because I wanted to be able to meet and hold Sophie as long as I could while she was still alive. And so they do the operation. It's about 15 minutes of just first like cutting through everything. My mom stood up at one point, immediately sat back down. She said, I saw your guts on the table. Because I was like telling her, I was like, I think they have my uterus out. And she was like, no. And she looked and she was like, oh, and they did. She sat right back down.
That stuff like creeps me out, freaks me out. Like, you don't got to give any of those details if you don't want to.
So sorry. I'll keep that to myself.
I will say that you can leave those details out.
Right. Valid. So then they asked, they're like, you want to hold her on your chest, right? And I said, yes. Like I moved everything out of the way. I was like, I want her skin to skin to be able to hold her. And so probably 15 minutes in, they say, here's your baby girl. And they reach her over and they lay her on my chest. And I remember my mom said, well, my mom remembers, and I remember her saying this, that when they first pulled her out, she could see that she looked very uneasy and she's kind of worming around and she didn't look comfortable. And they laid her on my chest, and she just kind of eased in. and pulled her hand up to her mouth. And every sonogram picture, she has her hand by her mouth or she's sucking on her thumb. And like when she was laid on my chest, she immediately pulled her hand up and had it right by her face and just snuggled in, my mom said. And I remember feeling her kind of breathe. And I remember her kind of moving around. And those are literally moments that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life. Even if it was I was able to stay awake for 30 minutes holding her before I had to be put all the way under because I started wiggling my toes. The anesthesia started wearing off, which was scary. But they say my grandmother had the same problem. We have fast metabolism. And so it wears off quicker on us. And so he told me, he was like, I'm sorry, but I have to put you under. And I said, okay. And I asked my mom, I was like, would you please hold Sophie? I don't want to drop her. Like in all of my like drugged upness, I was like, please just take her. I don't want to drop her while I'm asleep or something. And so my mom holds her and I look over and I see my mom. She's holding Sophie, my mom. Over anything else, it was also so hard on my mom because she went through every moment with me. It was basically her kid at this point. She was the best grandmother to Sophie that I could have asked for. Also, I feel like I couldn't pick a name or anything because I think subconsciously either I knew or God was putting it on my heart because I think it would have been harder if I had a million baby things to get rid of compared to I was unsure. And then the moment I found out what was going on, I went back to the first name I picked and Chrissy told me to find a name with meaning. And so Sophie means wisdom, which I thought it meant something else originally, but I found out it means wisdom.
Like biblically it means wisdom?
I think so. Yeah, okay. Because shout out McKinley Garrett, who is the youth pastor, or not, the children's pastor at our church, that when I returned back to church, she gave me a baby dedication because I missed the other one and she didn't want me to miss out. And she gave me a baby dedication with a photo of Sophie that I had provided on Instagram because I don't really show Sophie's face. I've made that decision. Sophie, and then the Bible verse, and then wisdom. And then her middle name is Grace. And so I wanted a very meaningful name because there's a long name story. We don't have to go in detail on that. But then my mom held her for another 30 minutes and she said they like measured her, or no, I think they let my mom hold her until she passed away and then they did all the measurements and things because they wanted her to have that time too. She said she was holding her and she didn't struggle. She didn't like, it was very peaceful. She said she just watched her neck artery kind of slow down and then she was gone. And she went to be with our Lord. And my grandmother was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver when I was in 8th grade. And as much as that's been hard, because I spent every single day with my grandmother, she was basically my babysitter long after I needed a babysitter. She didn't have a job. She was unmarried, divorced, and my mom was her only kid. I spent all my time with her. And so to know that Sophie was going to have my grandma, who was my best friend growing up, to take care of her and rock her. And it was so comforting. I put in my post about when I announced her birth. That,
I have actually the picture of that. Taylor, can you put that up? Yeah, that really spoke to me today. I love words and I saw that today and I was just like, it just rocked me. And I was like, I wanted to show it to our audience what you said about that. Taylor, you got that picture?
Oh, yes, this.
You want to read it?
Yes. I said, Sophie may not have been here for my whole life, but I got to be here for hers. She only ever knew my love, was held and cared for by my mom and very kind nurses, and then went to be with our God and my grandma Sandy, the best babysitters anyone could ask for. I like to think she was simply too perfect for this world. And I remember, so that's what the little quote from my post says. But I remember somebody had said, like, I think they gave me something that said that, like, or I was trying to find an urn because I knew very early on that I wanted to have her cremated so I could just keep her with me forever. And I think one of the things on Etsy said, simply too perfect for this world. And I was like, that is the best way to put it. And like, I remember Chrissy was the one who said, like, she'll never have to know, like, teenage heartbreak. And she'll never have to know, like, there are so many children who get molested and things out in this world. My baby will always be safe. Not that it's a positive to lose her like this.
No, but you're seeing it from the eyes of God. And, like, you're seeing it that that she had life, she had you, she had the comfort of the womb, and now she's in heaven, where it's like that's our home. As believers, that's our true home. We have new heavenly bodies. We're at one with Christ, and we get to live in the fullness of like she was made for a reason for him, you know. And the fact that you have that perspective of being with your grandmother too is just so special, because it shows just like how you talked about generations too. It's like the importance of that. And now you live to tell this story about her in a way that's going to impact people and their decision if they get pregnant young, and then the decision to just keep and cherish life. And also for me, like even just being a girl dad right now is like the appreciation of having a baby that's here and alive and well. And it's like, there's
congratulations.
Thank you. And it's like, obviously it's so special to be able to have you on today to talk about this, because it's just like, it's so real. And it's just, if we don't talk about these things, then who's going to be there, you know? And luckily you had such a great community around you, but like imagine those that have gone through something like this and walked through this that don't, you know? And it's like, I pray that that people, and especially hearing this from like the church perspective and how much the church really stepped up to help you. It's like Christians listening to this, like be there for people, man. Be there for people that are walking through pregnancy out of wedlock, and don't shame them at church. Like bring them in, welcome them in. How can I help you? Like be the hands and feet of Jesus. Like these people, that everybody that she just shouted out was for her.
There was a lady who was actually Tanya Long's, I want to say it's not her, I think it's her sister. She makes quilts for all the new babies in the church. And she reached out to me, and I already knew the diagnosis at this point. And I told her, I was like, you don't have to make one for me. Like, she's going to pass away, and this was going on. I am so appreciative of your offer. And she was like, oh, and I'm making one right now. Like, send me what colors you want. Like, I would love to be able to make a quilt for you and Sophie. Wow. And I mean, everybody at church was just right there and right on it. As soon as they knew, they were doing whatever they could to be there for us. And I don't know how many people visited me in the hospital following Sophie's birth and death. There were so many people that like, I didn't even think like caught up with my life. Like people from church, people from like a church that I had been visiting with friends, like the Heights Church in Cleburne. Shout out them, their youth group. I literally had met those people a handful of times, and they showed up. They sent flowers.
Wow.
And like, that's not even my church. And like, they were there for me as well. And there are just so many people. Like, I know it's terrifying to find out you're pregnant as a teenager, but really, if you just give the community around you an opportunity, if you give them a chance, I'm positive they'll surprise you. Wow. And if they don't, if they're mean, those aren't the people you need to surround yourself with. Those are not the people who are going to get you where you need to succeed in life and be there for you in hard times.
I love that you're a voice for the church too, for the younger generation, because I do feel like you represent what like the church youth group impact looks like. You know, obviously walking in faith, made a mistake, wasn't living out, you know, the scripture as far as, you know, premarital sex goes, but you still were honoring the Lord into everything throughout your pregnancy, and you're keeping the faith, and you're still, you know, you're shining the light on the Lord through this. So how did you, for people listening that maybe have walked through a tragedy, that are young, or have this question of like, how can you not be angry with God? Or like, how can you see God as being good if he, you know, took away your child? Like, what do you say to that when somebody says those perspectives to you? I'm going to be
completely honest and real in this, because I prayed over it before I walked in here today, not to give just a basic Bible answer on things. I want to be very real and very honest. You're going to go through a time where you're mad at God. Yes. I went through, as much as God, I'm trusting you, because if I try to lean on my own understanding, I'm going to be in a very dark place and I'm going to want to die. There were times when I woke up and I prayed to pass away when I gave birth. And that's a dark thing to say, but it's also very raw and real. And I think people need to hear that's normal. It's normal to have those talks, but it's also, or not talks, those thoughts, but it's also important that you have talks about it, that you're very open about that. And you're going to be angry with God, because you're not going to understand. You're not going to understand on this side of heaven even. I don't think I will understand on this side of earth, like why it had to go down the way it did. I don't think God put that on me, in a sense that I believe we live in a very fallen world, and that bad things happen to good people. And God is going to be there with you through it all. And so that's a reminder I had to tell myself for the day. I had to walk myself through that thought process. I recently met on my mission trip that I had this past summer after everything. His name's Eric Hernandez. He was it's called Maven. Shout out Maven. They take youth groups on mission trips, apologetic mission trips. We went to Arizona. Eric Hernandez, I got to share my story with him. He's such a cool guy. He does a podcast, I believe. He also does like philosophical, like apologetic debates with atheists and all the things. So
Nice.
we got to learn the curriculum to go out and talk to people about our faith and have very educated talks with them on why we believe in what we believe it, which I think is very important as a teenager, is to learn apologetics. I'll say that.
Amen.
Eric Hernandez, he talked to me about no matter what you're going through and how much you're doubting God. Even now, I have moments where I'm like, God, where are you, bro? Like, what are we doing? I'm like, I'm so lost. I'm so sad. Because it doesn't get easier. It really doesn't. You find ways to find the light. Because it's always going to be a sad and horrible thing that I lost Sophie, and I'll never be over that, I don't think. Like, you losing your child is not something you get over.
No, for sure.
It's something you learn
to live with.
And it's something you learn, like, when God says, or when that song, like, God turns graves into gardens.
I was listening to that on the way here.
It's a beautiful song.
That's wild. That was a song I was listening to on the way here.
Yes. And like, I remember, like, I had to remind myself of that all the time. Like, you're going to be upset with God, but there are going to be good things that come out of this, and he's going to walk beside you. I had peace beyond understanding. Like, I remember talking to my parents. I was like, I think there's something wrong with me, because why am I so calm? Why am I so okay right now? I was like, I'm about to lose my kid. Why am I okay? And my dad said, what are you doing? Why would you not praise God in this moment that you're okay and you're able to breathe and you're able to wake up every morning? He's like, why would you not praise God that he is putting peace over you that you can't understand, that you couldn't give yourself?
Wow.
He was like, why would you not praise God in that moment for giving that to you? Why
Shout
are you?
out Tim.
No,
Shout out Tim.
He's gonna think that's so funny. Shout out T-Dog. He said that, and it kind of stumped me, because I was like, oh, well, maybe you're right. Like, why am I not praising God that I am able to not be in shambles every moment of the day?
I love that. That's such a good perspective.
When you change your perspective, I'm pretty sure that's a TikTok sign. When you change your perspective is when you start winning. I think that's so real. Thank you.
My man Taylor Perky.
Literally, shout out my guy in the sound booth.
That's amazing.
But like, you're gonna have moments where you're upset with God and you're mad at God. I still do. I remember on that mission trip, I was like, how am I gonna talk to people about my faith when I'm struggling with it so hard?
Wow.
And by the end of the trip, I just remember there's a new Zach Bryan song. Shout out Zach Bryan. It's called 28. And one of the lines is, how lucky are we? And at the end of our mission trip, we have to write an essay of basically what we learned. They send it to Maven to show that it's making an impact, and they get to use that, like, different promotional things. I remember my theme was, how lucky are we? How lucky am I that I get to live and serve under a God who shows us all these beautiful moments in life through all of this darkness, because we live in a broken, fallen, horrible, sad, terrible world, that there are moments of light and special moments where you get to go and plant seeds in other people's lives. There's most of the time you're not going to change somebody to Christ immediately, but you're going to put that, even if it's just raking up the dirt, like, you're not even planting the seed, you're just raking up the dirt. You're softening their heart to receive that message later on. How lucky are we to be able to go out and do that? Like,
absolutely. Just
all of these moments, we are so incredibly blessed. Like, yes, it's a hard world to live in, but we are so blessed to get to live in this world, learn the lessons that we learn, live through the moments that we live through. Because as much as that was a horrible experience for me to go through, to lose my daughter, I also got to spend that time with my daughter. Yeah. And I'm going to have the moment for the rest of eternity to spend with her in heaven.
Amen.
And I have to remind myself that every single day, because there are definitely moments, and I think everybody needs to know that. It's not linear. Grief is not linear. Right. You're going to go through moments where you're like, oh, and this is actually impossible. Yeah. Like last night, I cried myself to sleep because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to keep. Literally, like, and here I am talking today so positively.
Yeah.
Last night, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to keep doing this.
Wow.
I miss her so much.
Yeah.
Like, it's heartbreaking. And she wasn't even here for, like, long enough
she
to,
was
like...
in you and that.
Yes,
and
yes.
My wife talks about it all the time, of, like, how she misses, like, our children in her womb, and, like, how... And just seeing her, like, adore our daughter now, and, like, just the way she loves, and just, you know, as a mom, you just love so much differently. than a dad, especially because they spend so much time with you in there and like
and growing them.
and like you feel that and you're part of that process and you're providing life for them through your body. There's nothing like it.
Have you heard about they're like scientific research on women years later? They're found like DNA, like the DNA gets passed through the kid and the mom. They found like 18 years later, like moms are still carrying the DNA from their kid.
Wow.
And that's why they are so heartbroken about every heartbreak that their child goes through, every hardship that their child goes through, because it's a part of them.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes to how God designs us. Like he designs us to be so and totally interconnected like we are with him. And I think we should like prioritize those relationships. Like my mom, we went through a hard patch because I was a rebel. Okay. When I say that I was a hard teenager, and you'd look at me like, not Ava Trammell, she's precious. What do you mean? My parents are like, let me tell you a story. She made so many mistakes, bro, but they let me through it. Yeah. And me and my mom have grown so close because I had nobody else. Me and Sam broke up pretty early on. There were a lot of problems going on there. But my mom, she stepped in and was basically the father figure in a sense. Like she was the other half. Yeah. Not to say she was a father figure, but she was the other half of that.
Yeah, I get what you mean by that.
And she spent every single moment with me. We'd sit on the couch and watch Gilmore Girls and cry. Because what else would a girl do? You know, we're just girls. And like, but I know that she feels that. She feels the heartbreak for me. Not only does she feel it on a sense that she lost her grandchild, she feels it because she cares so deeply for me. Because you really do carry that with you forever. Yeah. And I'll never forget Sophie. Like she will always be a part of me. I got a little bunny tattoo for her.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
Shout
about
out
that.
Bunny tattoo. Shout out my tattoo artist.
No,
right.
No, it's truly amazing. And I love what you said about eternity, because I'm writing a book right now about my friend that I was actually telling you about that was in the ICU. His name was Armani, and we lost him to whitewater rafting incident. Sorry. Thank you. And very tragic, and just loved him so much, loved his family, and it was just a very hard time. And the subtitle of the book is going to be Life is Short, but Eternity's Long. Because like you got to have that perspective that, yeah, we got, only 28 years with him while he was here, but like because he knew God and because he was saved, because of what the word of God says, we're going to see each other again. Yeah. We're going to be reunited and we're going to spend eternity together. It's way long. We're going to reign with Christ like for 1,000 years here, and then we're with him in eternity life in the New Jerusalem. Like that's scripture. So that's why it's so important when people are walking through these seasons of grief and heartache that we encourage them with the truth and the Spirit of God, because those two things together, worship and spirit and truth, are what's going to bring people to the revelation that having that positive perspective and praising God, even when, and not relying on your own strength, but his strength to get you through those seasons of grief and postpartum and depression and those things that come with the loss of a child. And even what was that like for you as not as quick as possible, but like just real quick, like what was that like going through the postpartum aspect of you're feeling these emotions because your hormones, because you just gave birth to a baby, but then you're feeling them amplified because you lost a child. So it's like two giants that you're having to battle.
After I was discharged, we had complications during my C-section, and so I ended up getting an infection in my uterus where I had to be hospitalized for another 6 days after Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's brutal.
Another 6 days after Thanksgiving.
Sorry. I hate the hospital.
And they put me right back into the women's unit next to the nursery. And I had to hear babies crying. And it was a horrible experience. I'll say that. My parents wanted to sue by the end of that. But I told them, I was like, it's already a bad situation. I don't want to drag this out longer than it has to. We are not doing that. But there are a lot of things that we could have sued for. But I didn't want to drag it out. Anywho. I remember feeling so drained by the end of that. I didn't even see the light of day. I had not breathed outside air for 6 days. And I already don't do well not being social really after that. And like, I'm a social person. I want to be outside. I want to go do things. Literally the day I got out, I went to Hobby Lobby to get like a thing to put all of like the memories of her in. And my mom was like, you are literally
you need to be on bed
being
rest.
held together by stitches. Why are you walking around Hobby Lobby? I was like, please
take me.
She did. And then I regretted it much time after that. Anyway, I remember the day I was getting discharged from that, me and my mom sat there and I told her, and I was like, most people leave this unit with a baby. I don't know. It's so sad. I was like, and I have to go home to nothing. And I cried, and I got home and I saw like the little baby things that I never put away because I was still kind of praying for a miracle to the very last minute.
Yeah.
And literally till the moment she passed away, like I remember I woke up and I was like, did she pass away from anesthesia? And my mom told me that she did. And I was too drugged up to really feel it then. But I remember when I had to, you get to hold on to your baby as long as you want to. And I remember I was pretty ready for her to be taken away. Probably like, I think it was 8 hours. Like she stayed with us. It was probably like 8 when I told her, I was like, the funeral home can come pick her up now. Because the whole time I was like, that's not her anymore. She's with our Lord already. Like I said that the whole day. Because I think I was still like in a weird like spot. And I regret that sometimes. But I can't beat myself up for it.
Yeah.
But like, it was just a very hard, empty time in my life. And I told my mom, like, every single day, I was like, how is it fair that people get, like, teenagers get to have abortions every single day and they don't want their baby that's perfectly healthy? And I was so ready. I was so ready to keep my baby and have my baby and go through the hard teenage pregnancy thing. Be a single mom if I had to. Be, like, in the trenches, whatever it took. But people choose every single day to just get rid of a baby that was going to be perfectly fine. How is that fair? Fairness was a big struggle for me, and you learn very quickly the world is not forgiving. The world is not fair. The world moves on. That's another thing postpartum was I was so stuck in the fact that I had just lost my kid, and the world moves on so quickly. Yeah. And it was hard because people didn't want to ask me about what was going on because they thought that would upset me, but I just wanted to be seen. I wanted her to be talked about. And so the people that would sit there and talk with me are the people that I cherished so highly. Like you literally had known me for like 3 days and we're staying at that shows how much I don't shut up about it. I'd known you for like 3 days. We were staying at the host and I'm like, let me tell you a story. I didn't even know you had a podcast. Didn't know you were like in a Christian ministry. I'm like, let me tell you a story. And I'll tell anybody. But like, it's a very isolating feeling because like my mom had to go back to work. My dad had to go back to work. At some point I had to go back to work. I was my mom's receptionist at the time, so it was fine. And then very shortly after that, I just flicked a tear. I applied at Outback Steakhouse, was a host, and then met so many people who I also shared the story with. I think I started there in January and like I was still going through everything and like seeing babies, like having to take high chairs over to the host stand and people don't know what I'm going through and I'm like sobbing and I'm like, I can't do it. And poor Josh and Heather are like, and then like there were just little things that would set me off and then there were like big things that wouldn't. Probably like, I don't know, in March. Oh, she's going to kill me. Shout out my niece Estella and my sister-in-law Ellie that are going to be mad I can't remember when she was born. Right?
Taylor, you're awesome.
I thought I wasn't going to like my niece because she was conceived very shortly after I found out I was having a girl. And then we found out that she was a girl. And then my sister-in-law was so careful around me. I cannot thank her enough for being so sensitive in that time when she really, like, she didn't even have to be. She should have been celebrating her pregnancy, and she still was. She was just very careful. She'd wear baggy clothes over to our house so I didn't have to see her bump that was way surpassing mine, even though I was further along than she was. She was so careful about what she said around me. She literally was just the best through that. The best that I could ask for, having a sister-in-law who's pregnant, who's going to keep her baby when I couldn't keep mine. I was so scared that I wouldn't like Estella. I was scared that I was going to react horribly to having a baby around me and that I was going to resent her. I was going to resent Ellie, which I didn't at the time. So it was weird that like it was Satan putting those thoughts, the negativity in my head to ruin that beautiful situation for me, a beautiful other life. I will say at the same time, I prayed every single day that she would come out perfectly healthy because I didn't know what I was going to do if she passed away too. I needed her here. As much as I was worried about her being here, I needed her here. And when she was born, she's the most beautiful little girl. She's so perfect. Like, I cannot speak volumes to how much I love that baby. And I love my nephew, Lennox.
Oh, I love
being around babies hasn't been bad for me.
That's so great to hear.
At first, it only was because I had a preconceived notion in my head. Even a little bit after, like, I'd be around babies out in public and I'm like, oh, I'm like, you're doing it to yourself. Like, that's a beautiful baby. That is a blessing. You need to be happy for them. And even though I am sad in my own way, I am so happy for everybody around me that, like, I'd hang out with my friends that are older that I made because they have babies as well. I babysat Beckham, my friend Lainey's baby, and he was such a blessing. Like, he's so precious, and it's healing.
Yeah.
Getting to buy baby clothes for my sister-in-law has been healing.
Yeah.
I work in the nursery at church now. Wow. Again, I used to before, and I stopped for a while because it was too hard for me, which is okay. I'm right back in with the toddlers now, and they are my best friends, and it is so healing.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. But to say the least, it's a hard thing postpartum. It's very isolating. Nobody really understands what you're going through, especially with the offset of you not understanding your own hormones, which you should because you're a woman. You're so in tune with your body. You're not, and it hits you like a truck. And I recently thought, I was like, am I just now getting hit by postpartum depression? Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's just regular. And I took Lexapro all the way up until I found out I was pregnant. I had a gynecologist. He has quit practicing like obstetrics. He's only a gynecologist now. He told me to cold turkey my Lexapro. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's so bad. You gotta, like,
wean off, right?
Yes, very slowly, because it can set you off so bad. I cold turkeyed it. At the ripe age of 17, teen pregnancy, I cold turkeyed my Lexapro, which I was on for anxiety and depression. I had struggled it with my whole life. I tried to commit suicide in middle school. It's been a rough walk. My mental health, through finding out Sophie's diagnosis to now, has been rough, but I've been able to do it without getting back on Lexapro. And I am proud of myself. I'll toot my own horn for that one. Shout out Ava. Thank you. I've been able to do it without Lexapro. And my dad, Tim, has been such a supporter in that because he wants to see me to be able to do it as long as I can. But both of my parents know when it comes down to it, if you need it, you need it. And that's the end of the question. Whatever you need to be okay is what you need. But I've gone without it, and my mental health has been better and more positive through walking with God, through the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life than it was in like 8th grade when I was so deep in my depression and tried to kill myself. It's been so much better.
Wow.
And I think like that's honestly, and that's not even me. Shout out God. Thank you. Shout out God, because literally without him, I could not be where I am today. I could not.
Wow.
And I would not even I can't even imagine where I would be. And the people that walk through things like this that don't have faith, I don't know how they do it because I couldn't have done it without God because I'd be in such a dark, dark place.
You're talking to somebody right now. And I think that person out there that's listening to this is going to consider opening up that Bible, is going to consider going to church, is going to consider asking questions about the Lord through your story and through what you just shared, because there's so much. The youth battles what you've been battling, especially now more than ever with the phones and the comparison and with what the culture throws at them.
Looking at pregnancy things on Instagram about killed me. And my mom told me for a while, she's like, you need to delete social media. Because I'd see on TikTok, because obviously before that I was watching pregnancy stuff. So that's what my whole feed was after my diagnosis. And that almost took me out, was the comparison of that's what their pregnancy looks like. That's what they're getting to decorate their nursery like. Yeah. And I don't get any of that. And it literally almost destroyed me. Sorry, continue. That was an interjection.
No, that's important because that shows like the realness and the rawness of like what we were just talking about as far as like just the generation that we're living in right now, the youth specifically, they're being targeted to basically, in my opinion, and just the way it looks, our kids are being targeted for just chaos, wickedness, and perversion.
Anything bad.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the enemy is like working on overdrive, and there's a spiritual war going on with the youth, and it's as believers, as the church, we're supposed to be speaking up and bringing that generation to the light. So I'm so glad that you're here because I really feel like you're going to be able to help this show reach more people in your age demographic to be able to find out about Christ, tune into a Christian podcast to hear about testimonies and just because testimony means what God did for somebody, he'll do for somebody else as well, and then do it again, do it with that same spirit and that same might. And I just believe that that's going to be the case for people watching this episode. So if you are watching and this is your first time here, subscribe, like, share it with everybody that you can. You're going to share it with all the people that you shouted out.
Oh, for sure.
And
all 500 of them.
All 500 people that you shared it with.
And if I didn't shout you out, know that you've been shouted out in other conversations, for sure.
Exactly. And I'm just so blessed by you. I'm so grateful that you came. I knew this was going to be powerful. We went longer than expected, but it was such a powerful story. And I just love your faith through it. And I am proud of you. Like, seriously, the strength that you showed to do what you did, to choose life and to boldly share your story with people and to keep her name alive. It just speaks volumes for who you are as a person. Your parents did a great job with you, and clearly you're walking with the Lord, and growing up in church has had a great impact on you. And I just pray you're able to bring more people to Christ through you being the light that you are to many around you. So I commend you, and I'm grateful you're here today. And we did get you one special gift today that we wanted to bring you out to the platform.
Oh no, he's getting up.
He's getting up.
No more sound effects.
No more sound effects. Sound effects are gone.
In the next 5 seconds, I'm going to say really quickly. Right. Oh, okay, thank you. Abortion is never the answer. Always reach out to somebody. There are people around you that care for you and love you. Y'all are so sweet. Turn to God, because ultimately you can't do it by yourself. Turn to the people around you. You can't do it by yourself.
That's a good word.
And don't listen to what society says about what you should do. Turn to the Bible, because ultimately everything there is in the truth. If you're listening to anything and adding it on, that's not true. The world is going to try to sway you in very, very wicked ways. And ultimately, your walk with God isn't going to be easy, but if you follow by what he says, if you follow by his word, it'll be a whole lot easier than what it would be if you're not following it. There will be a whole lot more peace added to it. Because it's not going to be an easy walk, but you'll feel better about it in the end if you did try to do everything you could by the book. Because if you get out of line, get out of order of God, what God says to do and what steps to walk, that's when you're going to find much more trouble than you're already put in through this terrible, wicked world. And I love you, and Jesus loves you. And I'm so thankful for getting to come talk on the pod today. And shout out Avery for sitting here with me. And I love her so much. She's been such a support.
That's so good. And guess who gave us these for you?
They're so beautiful.
This is Blossoms on the Square and Blossoms on the Boulevard. They're in Burleson. They're our friends Kelly Bowman from Calvary Church and Grant Bowman. So this is their beautiful business that they have.
Calvary Church.
Yep, exactly. And the person
Shout out Calvary. She goes.
You go to Calvary? Yeah. Okay, that was the church I went to for 5 years.
Yeah, I told her that.
Yeah.
Did I? Maybe, I don't know.
I'm so glad you're there. You're in the youth group now?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
I've been a few times.
Do you know Pastor Dustin?
Cool people.
Yes.
Okay.
Shout out Pastor Dustin!
Pastor Cat.
All of the
Pastor
pastors
Cat,
in
Pastor
Calvary.
Tommy.
Pastor Tommy, shout out Pastor Cat. Thank you.
That's awesome. But you know, so crazy. I walk inside.
This is beautiful.
And I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up flowers. Got called ahead of time. And guess who gave them to me?
Who?
Kaylin. Look at that.
No, she literally texted me today and said the most beautiful, sweet message. Shout out Kaylin and Ava O'Banion, who became my best friends at Outback Steakhouse. And they literally have been through a lot of the postpartum side with me. And they're just two precious souls. And they've got sweet, beautiful hearts. And look at that. Look, she's so enthusiastic. Did you tell her they were for me?
Yeah, because I walked in and I was like, God, you were like so funny. Like, you were so funny. I seriously was like, yo, I'm here to pick up flowers for Ava from Outback. And she was like, what? I was like, coming on the pod, you know? And then she told me y'all are possibly moving in together a couple weeks.
We're going to be roommates.
Yeah. And I was like,
they were roommates.
How crazy is that? So super cool. If you guys are listening, you're in Burleson, you're in DFW. Obviously, all the people that Ava shared the show with are in Texas for the most part. So please, if you're gonna get flowers, go to HEB, go to Blossoms on the Square, Blossoms on the Boulevard. They're a sponsor of our show. They've been supporting us with flowers for our amazing guests throughout the last, I think, 6 or 7 months now, and it's just been so special. While you're there. Say hi to Kaylin while you're there. We got the number on the screen for you. You can easily Google them. They're both in Alvarado and Burleson, so get your flowers there for Valentine's Day.
And y'all can't see
Mother's
these
Day.
if you're just listening on Spotify. It's a beautiful spread of white pink flowers with a lot of greenery around it. It's very beautiful, and that's going on my counter at home. Okay,
Beautiful.
It's going right up there. Yes, that was a perfect sound. Look at you, killing it. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm a yapper. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but Ava, this was an absolute pleasure. I think we had, we did have some people that joined our Patreon today because of you sharing that link. So I appreciate your friends joined the 7-day free trial, which is awesome. Which means you have access.
Oh no. That's actually probably not the best thing.
It's just they get access to the live streams. They get to be a part of our community, and
so maybe it is a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. Yeah, and they're supporting the ministry, and because it costs money to do these things that we're doing for the kingdom of God. So your support means a lot. So we appreciate you being on there. Hopefully you enjoyed the community. It also gets you inside to our live audience shows that we put on about once every month, every 2 months in Fort Worth. So if you guys are listening and you're not on there and you want to be a part of that, we have options as low as $5 to join a month, and you get all the episodes. You get to inside baseball about what we're doing. You get into the shows. You get merch discounts. You can do that at patreon.com/ILikeBirds. We always leave a link in the description, and if you do that, it's just so helpful. You know, it always, every time we get one of the emails of a notification coming in that somebody's like supporting us, we're like, yeah, let's go. You know, it just always feels so good, just because it's like, you know, it's God calls you to something, but then he provides you a way to do it, you know, even when you feel like there is no way, you know? So it's a super special when people support us on there, and it's growing that community. And I think that's just a beautiful thing for the kingdom of God. So thank you for that. And then one more announcement. You talked about Arizona. We actually have a show coming up in Arizona in October, opening for Jaron Myers, which is going to be so cool. Very excited about that. It is this comedian, Jaron Myers. Look him up on Instagram. He's so funny. I've been trying to contact him for months. And then the fact that I met this guy, Nick, through Pastor Troy. And next thing I know, Nick is booking me to come out to Arizona to perform at a benefit show. So there is tickets available if you're in Arizona. Check that out. All right. But other than that, man, this was an absolute pleasure to have Ava
you for having
here.
me on.
And what a great story as far as just faith. And man, I'm so proud of you. Seriously.
Thank you for letting me have a platform to share it on.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I really think really people are going to get connected with it. The Lord just kept whispering about impact all over the world. So I don't know if what that means. Maybe we're all over the world. We'll see what happens. But all for his glory through the power of the story. So Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I like the Bible and I like words. So therefore, I like birds. Share the show. Love you guys. See you next time. Thank you so much.